is made between the following parties. And what does it say from that point?
Complainant Kim Blandino, pro se litigant, and investigative journalist and volunteer unpaid investigator for the Commission on Judicial Discipline, in quotes, parentheses, I'm sorry, in parentheses, quote, NCJD, end quote, end parentheses.
All rise. 8th Judicial District Court, Department 12 is now in session. Honorable Michelle Leavitt presiding.
Good morning. We have a full panel here now. Anything? Oh, jeez. Anything before we get started?
Yeah, Your Honor, Mike Dickerson on behalf of the state of
Marland. Be seated, please.
We just were making a quick record this morning about the state's request for reciprocal discovery. That was made on the record and in our moving papers in opposition to the discovery motion. This morning, I would just make a record that Mr. Blandino and with Mr. Bateman has started providing me an opportunity to view some of those items. Just for the record, Mr. Blandino has shown me reports from the federal court, just generic reports indicating how they handle discipline in their courts. He's shown me some yearly reports from the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, generally describing how they handle discipline. He showed me various complaints that he's filed with the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline. He's shown me.
I'm not sure how any of that is relevant.
Right. He's shown me his family Bible. He's shown me the shirt that he brought in the first day about Judge Johnson. He's shown me various discs that he say has jabs or video of events, most specifically a early 2018 event, I believe January, involving Judge Herndon, who was a district court judge at the time.
I can't imagine how that would ever be relevant.
Right. I agree. I think that for the most part, he showed me an amicus brief that he filed with the Ninth Circuit dealing with President Trump's travel ban, his first travel ban. So that's where we stand right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we do it? Yes, please.
No.
Okay. Your Honor, most of these things have been in the possession of Mr. Blandino, and some of these things I have seen and spoken with him. Obviously, I agree with Your Honor. The things that Mr. Dickerson has mentioned are not relevant, are not germane to the issue of extortion, impersonation of a public officer, the two charges that we have here. You know, if Your Honor recalls, when I tried to withdraw, when I filed my motion, one of the things I was concerned. I'm not sure we have to even address
this issue now.
Well,
I'm assuming this issue would come up.
Well, if I'm not going to be allowed to testify, I'll just plead guilty right now then. Let's get a guilty plea agreement.
If and when Mr. Blandino makes a decision to testify.
I've already made that decision, Judge.
Okay.
Okay, I guess this is a little bit uncharted waters, Judge. I've never had anyone who will or will testify in narrative form. I think as he testifies, he's intending to try and introduce these things.
Okay.
But, you know, me being the counsel, I think they're not relevant and I will not introduce them. I mean, I guess I don't have a problem if he uses them to refresh his recollection, but I don't really intend on introducing these things as evidence because, as we said, and as Your Honor said, I don't really think they're relevant and are, at least as my trial strategy is to stay laser-like focused on just the issues at hand.
Well, how was it relevant that he had?
And his testimony will comply with the rules of evidence. So it's not going to be a free-for-all. And I've explained that to him on previous occasions as well. Anything else before we bring the panel in?
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor. We just wanted to bring it to your attention as to the progress on reciprocal discovery.
Thank you.
We do, Your Honor.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. If you don't mind raising your right hand so we can swear you in.
You do solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Michael Federico, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, last name F-E-D-E-R-I-C-O.
May I proceed, Your Honor? Thank you so much. Sir, so when we ended the day yesterday, we left off with the events of April 25th, 2019, specifically in the morning time when you were working as a municipal court judge pro tem, is that right?
Yes.
And you testified about Mr. Blandino coming into the courtroom, is that right?
Yes,
He didn't have a case on calendar,
this is the second time, right?
the second time on April 25th,
Yes.
and at that time you ordered him out of court.
Yeah, there was an active and criminal investigation. Felt like I was being intimidated, yes.
Okay, and so those events took place in the morning hours roughly of the day?
I believe so, it's on video, whatever the video shows, but I believe it was early.
Okay, and generally, when you sit for traffic court in particular, it would be in the morning hours?
Not necessarily, but it's highly likely because I was at the office all day in the afternoon, so I wasn't in the afternoon session, otherwise I wouldn't have made it to the office all the way on Cheyenne 215, so.
Okay, so then after you get done working as a judge pro tem that morning, what do you do?
Go to the office and go to my private citizen job.
Okay, and so then at that point in time, you take off your judge hat and you put on your lawyer hat.
Immediately.
And you're working now in your private capacity at your private law office.
Instead of serving the taxpayers, I'm serving my private clients, yes.
Okay, and so that's the law office that we previously discussed at 9950 West Cheyenne.
Yes.
Now, as you're working there that day, does something occur later on in the day?
Yes.
Can you tell us about what, if anything, occurred?
The defendant shows up at the office again and leaves some documents for me. I didn't have any engagement with him, but I was able to grab them and see him leave again and then send them on to, it was either the police or the marshal service, I don't recall which one.
Okay, and so, again, Mr. Blandino comes into the reception area of your office and leaves something for you now.
Incredibly, yes.
You don't have any interaction with him down there in the lobby?
No, absolutely not. If anything, I would call the police.
Okay, and then when he leaves, you see that?
I know he's gone, so that the coast is clear, so to speak, so I don't have any engagement.
Okay. Now, after that point in time, you go down to the lobby, as you did a couple weeks earlier, and retrieve the document that Mr. Blandino left for you, is that correct?
Yes.
I have here what's been admitted as, by stipulation, as states exhibits 1, 1A, and 1B. 1, as was the same with, and 2 is just manila envelope that was holding these documents, is that correct?
Yes, I had the originals and I've kept them all this time.
Yeah. And that manila envelope is just done to keep these documents together, correct?
Yes.
Now, I'll show you this. We have here States Exhibit 1B on top. And then this document here that is stapled is 1A. You see that?
Yes.
You recognize these?
Yes.
And what are these?
That's the paperwork he dropped off, and again, the law firm timestamp, it's upside down there.
Go ahead and turn that.
Yeah.
So we're looking at 1B right now, the sticky note that is on top of the letter. And so the law firm had timestamp for you, this for you just as they had the first document.
Exactly.
What is that timestamp? Date and timestamp?
April 25th, 2019, 4:10 p.m.
Okay. 4:10 p.m. later on in the afternoon, is that right?
Yes,
April 25th, 2019, same day that you were working as a pro tem judge earlier in the day.
the dates match up with the video, yes.
And again, same stamp here, Olson, Cannon, Gormley, and Gulo and Staberski, is that right?
Yes.
There's some writing on here. Are these writing that you're familiar with?
I believe those are my squigglies, I think the 2209 was the number when I fed it in. I basically made a copy and it goes through the scanner and shows what the number is, so I wrote the number on there, not thinking about it being the original evidence.
Okay.
I have some squiggly notes, I don't know what the other stuff is, but the number I believe is just for the copy scanner machine at the office.
And this sticky note was related, the sticky note that is 1B was related to 1A, which is the letter, is that
I
right?
believe so, yes.
Okay.
It should all be together, so.
Now, this letter here that we're looking at now, 1A, this is the document that Mr. Blandino dropped off at your office for you on April 25th, 2019.
Yes.
Can you see that there on your screen?
Yeah, it's easier to look at the original, but I can read it. I can see
Yeah,
it.
let me see if there's something that we can do about that.
Contrast.
So here I have, may I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. I have here, just for the record, State's Exhibit 3, admitted by stipulation. Do you recognize that as a copy of the
The first
letter and first sticky note
yes,
from April 8th?
we read that yesterday.
Okay. And then I have here State's Exhibit 4, which has been admitted by stipulation. Do you recognize this as well?
Yes, it's a true and accurate copy.
Okay, and this is a copy of the April 25th document that we're now discussing.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave this up here with you, all right? The copy of that. We'll have the original on the screen. Let me see. Okay, we'll start at the top of this, Exhibit 1A. There's a date indicated here. What is that date?
April 25th, 2019.
And then under that, what does it say?
To Michael Federico in his capacity as Judge Pro Tem.
Okay. What does it say under that?
From Kim Blandino.
So again, this document is written to you specifically in your capacity as a Judge Pro Tempore.
Yes.
And it indicates it's from Mr. Blandino. Is that right?
Yes.
Under that, is this like the subject section? Is that what that
Read. Yeah, that means regarding usually.
Okay. And so what does it say there?
Read, desire not to have to file formal complaint with Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, NCJD.
Okay. So here, Mr. Blandino has designated his abbreviation for the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline as NCJD.
Yeah, basically that's the threat.
You were at that time and are today familiar with what the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline is that right?
Yes, they come in when we do CLEs or when we have training, pro tem training every 2 years, somebody comes in from that organization and talks about, duties as a judge, and hey, if you're in trouble, you're gonna come see me. That's kind of the way they portray themselves, but
Okay.
other than that, I've not had any contact with anything.
Okay. I mean, kind of fair to say they're essentially like the ethics police for judges in Nevada.
I would, like a watchdog, I guess, yeah, I mean, but in a professional sense,
And it's a state-run commission.
very formal, and I think it's hard to get on the commission when they're looking for panelists.
Okay. So you read that, you were familiar with what the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline was, when you read that, right?
I've heard of it, but yes.
Okay. Now, as we go down, we have the letter in front of us. I'm going to go through and I'm going to flip the page. We're looking at the second page of State's Exhibit 1A, and then the third page. All right? You see those?
Yes.
So this appears to be a 3-page letter, essentially, from Mr. Blandino, and then flipping to the 4th page, what do we see there?
It's reference to an exhibit.
Okay. So, as I flip this to the side, there's multiple pages of what would be designated after the letter itself as exhibits?
That's correct.
Okay. But the letter itself is approximately 3 pages.
2 pages plus a certificate saying that it was personally delivered.
Okay. What I'm going to do is, like we did with the first one, I'm going to have you read this letter.
The whole letter?
Please do.
Attached is the customer feedback form, Exhibit 1L, that was filed today with court administration. You know what happened in courtroom 1C this very day. Your actions were wrong. You cannot use the RJC and courtroom 1C to vindicate a personal grudge you have with me.
I'm going to stop you right there. RJC, are you familiar with what that means?
Yeah, Regional Justice Center, that's the courthouse that we're here together.
Okay. And courtroom 1C, were you familiar with that reference?
It's likely where traffic court was that day that I saw him.
Okay. And then before that, we have Exhibit 1L. Is that the exhibit that we had turned to on page 4?
Yeah, something inside the document.
Okay. Okay. Please begin from the next paragraph.
I am an investigative reporter and an unpaid volunteer investigator for the NCJD to investigate judicial misconduct and corruption. I was there today in these joint capacities. As you have already committed misconduct, you have already at least 1 strike against you. It was in this regard that I came to your publicly listed offices to see if I could meet you man to man and see if we could resolve my complaint with you without having to use scarce judicial resources and NCJD resources, as I have attempted to do with other misbehaving judges. And in fact, I do with whomever I have a complaint with. My religious beliefs and practices mandate that I attempt to settle matters at the lowest possible level. In fact, this principle is what made America the greatest country on earth. America's most important entity is the individual and individuals' rights that come from God and are just acknowledged in constitutions and founding documents. What is often attributed to Jefferson is, quote, the government is best which governs the least because its people discipline themselves, unquote. So to avoid having the NCJD subject this complaint to their protocols, I once again reach out to you to resolve this matter between you and I, or your attorney and I, if you wish to have an intermediary. You have no authority to keep me from 1C while you are conducting proceedings because I am looking for misbehavior on your part. All you have to do is follow the law and the judicial code, and you have nothing to be concerned with. You appear to be an individual who cannot psychologically handle the power in a fashion that is not a type of miniature tyranny. Shannon Nordstrom and I have been at odds, and I will be filing a complaint against her unless we can settle matters. Yet she in no way prohibits me from coming into 1C and taking notes and observing any misbehavior which I have found in fact. Please know that I am very serious about following through to the best of strength that God gives me to do so. The men and women that came before you, and I suffered greatly to establish a nation built upon the individual and individual's rights. I treasure that gift that God gave us by way of these brave men and women. The sacrifice that I spend in time, inconvenience, and discomfort is very small compared to what they suffered to establish freedom and liberty based upon the very principles that God and His Son Jesus would wish for all on this planet to enjoy. Yet many strangely would rather have the tyranny that is imposed by liars and cheats that, quote, promise the moon, end quote, to fools and deliver the dirt of slavery to swallow and choke on. Please repent of this tyranny that you yourself are a slave of and stop the enmity, I'm not even sure what that word is, that E-N-M-I-T-Y, that you have with reason, logic, and common sense that God gave to humans to guide us, as well as the light that He provides to guide our respective paths. I attached as Exhibit 2L a letter written by Veterans in Politics for clarification of 2 complaints that had been recently filed, where it appears that letters of caution were issued against 2 different judges because of their misbehavior. Exhibit 3L attached is the letters that I received back on my complaints against Hurden and Bear, which clarification is sought. In 1995, I asked in open court for former Judge Fine to resign as a judge because she was clearly not suited to the job. She refused. Unfortunately, for hundreds upon hundreds of families, she refused. Although 2 commissioners in 1995 voted to remove her, it was not until 1998 that the NCJD finally did get rid of this horrible judge by all accounts. I believe you should seriously consider resigning. Although you differ from her in that you have a sharp mind and the potential to be fair and not tyrannical, you may not be able to resist these base desires to, quote, lord power over people and to violate your oath and the code. We should meet and see if these matters can be settled for all concerned and for a multitude of reasons as cited in part above. Please know that you will be judged as you have judged. If you continue on this path you are presently on, the judgment against you will certainly be very severe indeed. A judge's job is difficult enough for the best of persons. I implore you, for the sake of your soul, to consider what is in front of you if you continue down this dark path you are on and the people you have undoubtedly heard already. Quote, for what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul, end quote. And that day, this 25th day of April 2019, and there's a signature there, and then his name, his apparent address, and the rest, his email and telephone number.
Great. I have here State's Exhibit 3, the copy of State's Exhibit 2 and its contents. Here we see State's Exhibit 3 on the screen. This is the first letter from April 8, 2019, correct?
Yes.
A copy of it. Now, when we look at that, do we see the same email address and same phone number given for Mr. Blandino?
It all looks to be the same, and it was hand-delivered from the same person.
Okay. And then we go to the third page of State's Exhibit 1A. What do we see there?
Certificate of service, that's what legal documents, attorneys normally have those when they're getting mailed out, or now it's e-filing, or receipt of copy, or just U.S. mail, just to confirm somebody from an office or whatever is basically just confirming that it was sent out, and then somebody's got to sign it. Usually it's not the person drafting documents, but he's trying to be official as possible.
Okay, so it indicates it's personally delivered. What is personally delivered?
Somebody coming and dropping off a physical original copy.
Okay.
Which doesn't happen too often.
And it says it's delivered to who?
Me, Michael Federico, at the law office, 9950 West Cheyenne, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89129.
Okay. And then under that, it's dated and signed?
Yes, it is.
And does the date indicate it's the 25th day of April 2019?
Yes.
And the signature indicates it's Kim Blandino?
Yes.
We go to the next page. This is page 4 of that document. What is this?
Just signaling to the reader that the next pages are not part of the substantive document. In other words, it's not a continuation of the letter, it's attachments that sometimes attorneys or whoever's preparing something will refer to. I mean, you might have exhibits A through C or whatever have you. This one was on the 1L. But
And 1L, as you recall, was referenced within the body of the letter itself, is that right?
yes.
Okay, I'm going to turn to that 1L document. What do we see here?
It appears to be some customer feedback form from municipal court that the defendant may have filled out.
Okay, this is the document that he attached to the April 25th letter, is that right?
Yes.
And then it appears that there's also some sort of a date and timestamp on this as well?
Yes,
And what does that indicate?
that would have been the day that he filed it. I think there's a time too, I'm not positive though.
Okay. Does it appear to, can you read the date there?
Sure, April 25th, 2019, the same date that he came driving over to my office.
Okay. And then, do you believe there's a time, how do you believe that time is situated?
Yeah, I'm not sure, I'm more assuming.
Okay.
But usually you expect a time too, just to document when this person was there, just like how important it was for these other documents to be stamped at the law firm.
Okay. And then up here at the top, it indicates Las Vegas Municipal Court, the Regional Justice Center with the address, is that right?
Yes,
Below that, it says customer feedback, and it goes on, tell me if this is correct. This is the printed text on the form, right? The Las Vegas Municipal Court is committed to providing excellent customer service and welcomes all comments, suggestions, or concerns. Please fill out the form below and either mail it to the above address or submit it to Municipal Court Administration window located on the second floor of Regional Justice Center at 200 Lewis Avenue.
yes.
Okay. And then what do we see under that?
That's the area where somebody can, I guess, either give a compliment or slam a judge because they got an adverse ruling or because they don't like the way they are being treated.
Okay.
You know, whatever, just comments, you know, just a way for the public to be able to acknowledge or,
So these are like fill-in boxes with specific prompts for information.
yes,
Okay, and here on the top left, it indicates a date. What is the date?
April 25th, 2019.
That appears to be handwritten,
Here's
showing you again. States Exhibit 3, the original letter, just looking at that here. I'm going to go down to the bottom of States Exhibit 1A. Here at the bottom, we see a section for name, phone number, and email address.
yes,
Does that all appear to be consistent with the same as the April 8th letter from 2019 that is copied as States Exhibit 3?
yes,
We'll go back here, then at the top, it says department or area visited, courtroom 1C, department 20, is that right?
yes,
That is handwritten in.
yes,
Business with court is under that, is that right?
yes,
So that would be a section that somebody would write, could write something like, oh, I had a traffic trial today.
right, you know, whatever they're there for.
Okay, and so what did Mr. Blandino indicate he was there for?
He represented himself as being an investigative journalist, and it's hard to read, but investigating judge misconduct, I think is what it says. But
Okay.
I didn't write it, but it looks like that.
Okay. So here on the document he submitted to the Las Vegas Municipal Court, he did not identify himself as an investigator for the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, is that right?
He didn't say that right there.
Okay. Below that, the document prompt indicates, if this is in regard to a specific employee, please provide name and/or title if known. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, and then below that, there's a prompt for name for related to that specific employee. Did Mr. Federico, or I'm sorry, did Mr. Blandino fill in Michael Federico there?
appears so, yes.
And next to that would be a prompt for the position. It says title, is that right?
Yes,
And what does it say there?
Judge Pro Tempore.
Okay. Below that, we have this section that says a prompt being your comments / remarks as the prompt, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. What does it say from that point?
You want me to read the whole thing?
Please do.
Kim Blandino, in parentheses, Kim, went into courtroom 1C at about 9:36 a.m. today, 4/25/19. Just about every day that Kim is in the RJC, Kim goes to courtroom 1C to see the various
Okay.
that are going on.
Oh, I'm going to stop you right there. So this picks up with the second page, is that right?
Yes,
Okay, and it appears that the comments section is what picks up after various.
I apologize, I'm not following.
On the first page, the comment section ends with CV various, and then it appears that it picks up on a second page that's attached to it, is that right?
Yes.
And then there's a third page,
Yeah, yes, and then mark 3 on the bottom. So.
and a fourth page,
Yes,
and a fifth page,
yes,
and a sixth page,
yes,
and a seventh page,
yes,
and an eighth page.
yes.
Okay. So we already gone over this section here that's below this brief comment section. Does that indicate that this is Kim Blandino with all the contact information that we already know exists for him,
Yes,
including his address at 441 North 16th Street, Las Vegas, Nevada 89101.
yes,
His email, kim@earthlink.net,
same thing, yes,
and his phone number 702.
yes,
Okay. And so then we pick up with the complaint. So on the next page, it is marked at the bottom of page 2. Do you see that?
yes.
Okay, I'm gonna have you, at this point in time, read this through till page
Okay.
8.
That are going on as Kim has complaints against the various persons that adjudicate matters in this quote, court, end quote. Kim has a complaint pending against a Jorgensen, spelled phonetically, that sat on the bench during one of Kim's cases. This Jorgensen would not spell his name nor give Kim his first name. Admin themselves could not tell me who this was. The Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline could not find this case at first, but now has ordered the jabs. Now back to today. Kim has observed that Michael Federico was on the bench. Michael Federico was on the bench when Kim had proceedings in cases where Federico was allegedly going to try Kim for traffic crimes. Yet Kim had filed a motion to disqualify Federico. Therefore, Federico was in violation of the NRS 1.230-1.235 and the Judicial Code, quote, code, end quote. For moving forward, that even after this, Federico found Kim in contempt in direct violation of the statute and sentenced Kim to somewhere between 25 days and 125 days in jail for contempt, in parentheses, sentence suspended only if requirements are met, end quote. Kim does not have a signed and filed judgment by Federico. When Kim came into court today, as stated above, and sat down in the front row, Federico stopped his colloquy with the defendant and said, quote, Mr. Blandino, end quote. Kim was startled and realized Kim should stand up to address the, quote, judge, end quote. Kim said by his recollection, quote, yes, end quote. Federico said by recollection of Kim, quote, because you were at my private office the other day, you must get out. You have 10 seconds to get out, or I am going to find you in contempt, end quote. Kim tried to object, yet Kim was in, quote, fear, end quote, of being put in jail, where it is extremely difficult to do paperwork and legal research from. Kim immediately tried to contact Lieutenant Woolsey, I think is the name, Woolsey, and see if Kim could immediately get back into the courtroom. Lieutenant Woolsey said through another employee that Kim must email Woolsey, that this was an emergency matter. Kim then went to an admin and asked to speak to, I'm not sure what that says there. Looks like an S and a WOJO, WIAK.
Okay.
Kim spoke to the sergeant at length and implored Woja to speak to Reyes, the courtroom marshal, to see if Kim could re-enter. Wojo would not. Kim's religious beliefs and practices require that Kim try to settle the matter at issue with the offending person directly. Therefore, Kim did go to Federico's office to see if the matter could be settled without filing a complaint with the NCJD. This going to Federico's office in no way gives him any authority to exclude Kim from attending court proceedings and observing to see if there is judicial misconduct and corruption. In fact, just yesterday, Kim contacted, I think it's Patricia Blackman, who was wronged by hearing Commissioner Shannon Nordstrom. Patricia wanted to know how to file a complaint. So Kim had agreed to get Patricia some complaint, quote, parentheses, feedback forms, end parentheses. Federico has no authority to exclude Kim from the courtroom just because Kim came to where he works as a private attorney, especially where Kim is actively investigating Federico for misconduct and corruption.
I'm gonna stop you real briefly. Here we have on State's Exhibit 1A, a highlight mark on investigating. Do you know where that came from?
Yeah, that was me. When I was looking through it, I highlighted the wrong, instead of highlighting a copy, I highlighted that one, which was the original. So I started and then I stopped right away.
Okay. And so that was not on the original, correct?
No, that highlight was not there. That's mine that happened within the last few months, I believe.
Okay. And you had retained this document in your personal record since that time, is that right?
Oh, yes, it was at the law firm, and then I moved into my personal residence.
Okay. And then from there, what does Mr. Blandino continue to state in this complaint?
Kim was not in any way disruptive or causing any disturbance. Kim was taking notes and gathering information. Kim tries at all times to use the best use of resources, including time. Kim was at the RJC to pick up a CD of proceedings that Kim had ordered. See Exhibit 1 attached. And then the next page looks like it's an Exhibit 1.
Okay, it says Exhibit 1 at the bottom in handwriting,
Yes.
and it appears to be some sort of a receipt for payment on a transcript or something?
Yes.
Okay. We turn the page on that, and what do we see here?
Exhibit 2L is what it says.
And 2L was an exhibit that was referenced within the letter, the body of the letter itself?
I believe so.
Okay. And
Yes, it's on page 2.
it's on page 2.
It might have been somewhere else. I just found it now so that I could say yes.
And this is a letter, it says Veterans in Politics International at the top.
Yes.
This is just a letter written by an individual. If we turn it to the third page, does it have the name of the writer?
Yeah, it looks like the president of Veterans in Politics International, Steve Sampson.
Okay. This is not a government body, is it?
Not that I'm aware of,
Okay,
no. I think it's a private organization run by Mr. Sampson.
okay. And then we go to Exhibit 3. Oh, and I should say, you having looked at this document, and feel free if you need to refresh your recollection. The date at the top of that Veterans in Politics letter is April 15, 2019.
Yes,
And you've seen this before, obviously, correct?
yes.
And in this complaint, this has nothing to do with you.
I didn't, yeah, it was just some, like an example of, hey, look what's going on, look what I'm doing in other matters or whatever. At least that was my impression, it had nothing to do with me.
Just generally about complaints to the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, is that right?
Kind of like bragging, yes.
Specifically, this was sent to NCJD at the
Yes,
top.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to look at the screen and the paper, yes,
Okay,
NCJD.
okay. Then we're gonna go to this next one that is marked as Exhibit 3L. What do you see there? We'll turn that page.
Exhibit 3L, yes, and then the next page is looks like a formal letter from the State of Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, marked confidential, and the date was March 14, 2019. Yes.
Okay. And it's entitled to who?
Kim Blandino at the address he's been representing himself to be at.
Okay. And what does this letter say?
Case number 2018-216, and I can just guess that would be a 2018 case that was opened.
And it says,
It says, Dear Mr. Blandino, the Nevada Judicial Discipline Commission met on March 1st, 2019 and decided to dismiss your complaint you filed in the above referenced case based upon a review of the relevant court records, including a hearing recording obtained by commission staff. You assert that the judge called you an inappropriate name, failed to issue an order, made improper legal decisions, and various other allegations. Although the commission has dismissed your complaint, it has taken what it considers to be appropriate action under the circumstances. Thank you for bringing the facts set forth in your complaint to the commission's attention. Sincerely, Jill Davis, Associate General Counsel, which I will presume would be from the commission.
and then we looked at the top right-hand corner of this document. Are you familiar with this writing? Was this on the document when you received it?
Yes,
Okay, what does it say there?
Hurden complaint, that Hurden, I presume, would be Judge Hurden, who used to be a district court judge here, and I believe is now a Supreme Court judge here.
Okay. And we flip to the next page of that, what the defendant has marked as 3L. What do we see here?
Looks like a similar document from the Commission on Judicial Discipline, except it's regarding, up on the top right-hand side, says Bear complaint, and that's probably Judge Bear, who used to be with the state bar as their counsel, and then became a district court judge. I don't think he's on the bench anymore.
Okay.
I think he
And
lost the election.
the date on that is December 14th, 2016.
Yes,
And it's entitled to Kim Blandino at same address that we know, 441 North 16th Street, correct?
yes,
Las Vegas, Nevada.
yes,
And then it references the case number 2016-098. Is that correct?
yes.
And then what does it say from that point?
Dear Mr. Blandino, the Nevada Judicial Discipline Commission met on December 9, 2016 and decided to dismiss your complaint you filed in the above referenced case. Although the commission has dismissed your complaint, it has taken what it considers to be appropriate action under the circumstances. Thank you for bringing the facts set forth in your complaint to the commission's attention. Please be advised that our staff cannot discuss the commission's determinations with it's a little blurry on my complainants. Any questions or concerns should be submitted in writing to the for the commission's consideration. Sincerely, Jill Davis, Associate General Counsel.
All right. So, a two-page letter with a certificate of service,
Yes,
an attachment of a municipal court complaint that was filled out earlier in the day,
yes,
a letter from some organization, just generally about judicial complaints, is that right?
yes,
And then two letters from the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline dismissing Mr. Blandino's prior complaints.
yes, regarding other elected judges.
Okay. So you had the opportunity to review this letter after you received it in the afternoon hours of April 25th, 2019.
Yes, immediately.
And once you read the letter, what, if anything, occurred that day in your mind? What was going on?
I did a whole bunch of research on the individual and became panicked, especially for my family.
And I'm going to come up and retrieve this from you.
Sure.
Now, I will note that within that, we're looking at State's Exhibit 4. It says, he indicates he is an unpaid volunteer investigator for the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, is that right?
I did.
And what, if anything, did that make you think at that time?
This person's possibly got some credentials. I still think it's inappropriate, whatever this person's doing. I mean, I just don't expect government officials to just be showing up at your law office, you know, especially without anybody else around, you know, popping into your courtroom. I would have expected, as a first time dealing with this, some kind of more formalities and or telephone calls as opposed to people hopping by a law firm with some kind of serious allegations.
Are you worried?
I was very worried. I probably called my wife within minutes, saying this guy's here again.
Okay. And what were you worried about?
I was worried about, I didn't know if this guy's outside. I don't know if he's, you know, if he comes with weapons. I mean, anything can be used as a weapon, a pen or a pencil, whatever. I didn't know if I should, you know, be leaving the office with a police escort. You know, I told my wife to watch out. I mean, I think the kids were home. I don't think I would have said, hey, you know, make sure you're at the bus stop and watch everywhere because, you know, we have 3 different rounds of bus stops for all the kids.
You have how many kids?
6.
And they 3 different routes of bus stops
Yes,
to take to school? Is that a yes?
yes.
And so you were concerned about your kids as well?
Yes.
What was the concern that was brought up from this letter? kids?
My wife. Sorry. I didn't let you know. Sorry,
No.
shouldn't do that.
Take your time.
I can't help it, sorry.
So, you immediately start having conversations with your wife.
Yes.
And
I also, you know, I think I emailed, I called up, you know, this guy, you know, whoever he is or whatever he's doing, he's gone rogue and he's here again. You guys gotta do something about this. I've been holding off on trying to file a protective order. You guys said you're investigating and he's here again.
was that you contacted law enforcement?
Yeah, it was either one of the city marshal that works with like an FBI task force.
Okay,
Or it was Metro Detective, I don't remember which one, I wanna say it was the city, and the Metro Detective hadn't contacted me yet.
okay.
And I was holding back on doing something because I thought they were gonna hopefully do something about this.
And you, in addition to talking to your wife, you take some action that was just a little bit out of the ordinary for you?
As far, I mean, I did research.
Yeah.
You know, I talked to the police.
So you-
I'm sorry, I talked to somebody, whether it was the marshal or somebody else.
Do you start carrying a firearm?
Yes. Yeah, I have I call it a CCW, but I keep things locked up because we have children and I'm not some professional marksman or a police officer. You know, I had a few things and I let everybody know I'm gonna have to carry to work. I didn't know what's going on.
Okay.
It wasn't like that day. I mean, my home was like 15 minutes away, but that was the plan and it was more with my wife that doesn't even like that. She goes, you're gonna have to protect yourself. You're going back to the office. This is before you could work remotely.
And so, it sounds like you devised some sort of security plan with your wife,
Yes.
and you contacted the law enforcement officers who were already aware of the situation.
Yes, I also got, I don't know if it was up already, but we took like a mug shot that we had of him and they posted it downstairs. Everybody knew to beware of this guy.
Okay.
Called the police if he shows up.
And in addition to that, you indicate that you did some research on Mr. Blandino.
Oh, yes.
You ultimately, through your research, around this time, come to figure out that it's very unlikely that he is actually an investigator for the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline.
I would have been surprised that he fell through the cracks with what I found on him.
So you,
Yes.
so at that point in time, you continue your conversations with law enforcement.
Yes, it was pretty much, look, if you guys don't do something, I'm at least gonna have to try to get some kind of protection because at this point, nobody is protecting me. I have nothing. I'll go try to file for order of protection if the police aren't going to do anything. That's kind of where it was. So if they need anything else, I'm here to cooperate. But I mean, this is causing severe emotional stress.
Right.
I mean, it's not just me. I mean, it's my colleagues, it's the staff. Anybody who goes in the office at risk now, and my family at home, and people at the courthouse. Who knows who this person really is? It appears to be maybe some government official that's gone rogue. I just didn't know.
Okay.
I never dealt with this organization before.
Okay.
So on a direct one-on-one level, I certainly didn't expect people to be popping by like that and making threats. I just found it to be it was like on TV, you know, when you have somebody that goes rogue and they're trying to extort money from somebody. That's the way I felt. And I never felt like that before in my entire life.
So
Just felt bad. It felt wrong.
This really seems to ramp up this day, April 25th, 2019, which is a Thursday.
Yes. I believe it was Thursday.
Okay.
That was the last day that the city does Monday through Thursday.
Okay.
Anything on Friday, so.
And then the following Monday, April 29th, 2019, are there further steps that are taken with the criminal investigation?
Yes, Metro officer, I believe his name is Mead, and the city marshal that's on the FBI task force. They came to my office and to meet with me. I don't recall if I knew at the time that they wanted me to make a call with this guy.
Okay. So you meet with them in your office, you discuss the circumstances of what's going on there in person,
Yes,
and then, after your discussions with them, or during your discussions with them, they ask you, if you can call him,
yes.
and do you agree to do that?
Half-heartedly, yes, yes.
You were not,
I didn't want to talk to this person. I didn't want to play the role of anybody even buying into this stuff. You know, I just didn't want to give him the satisfaction that he's got one over on me.
okay.
But I did. I followed through with the instructions.
And that was so that the investigating detectives could figure out, what does this guy really want?
Exactly. Wanted more details, you know, because of things that, everything was left a little vague apparently as far as their investigation. So they wanted to make sure they had everything and all of his thoughts so that they could see whether they were going to do something.
So that specifically related to, when you say they negotiate a settlement, as the defendant had indicated in his letter, is that right?
Yes,
So at 12:37 PM that day, did you pick up the phone
yes,
and dial the number that Mr. Blandino had provided in his 2 prior letters
yes,
here as 702-219-5657?
We were in a depositions last conference room next to my office, and that's where I believe that's where we were, and that's where I placed the call from. So there's a speakerphone set up too. It's a telephone, but you put it on speaker.
And were these investigators, these task force officers with the FBI and the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, Detective Kenneth Meade and Deputy Marshal Peter Marowitz, were they there with you in the conference room?
Yeah, Marowitz was the name I couldn't remember. Yes. They were
Okay.
up there.
And is this call going to be recorded?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, because that would require a wiretap to do in the state of Nevada, right?
I believe so. I don't mess around with anything like recording, but if they were doing something, I wouldn't have known.
Okay. But to your knowledge, it was not recorded?
Correct.
Okay. And when you call that number, does anybody pick up?
He picked up. It was
Who
his
did?
voice, Mr. Blandino, you know, the first time. I think it took a couple rings. He picked up and he, you know, it was, I forgot what time it was, but he sounded a little disheveled over the phone, but it definitely was that voice. The voice that I had heard at the law firm and the voice that was at the court, you know, the courthouse, and through that lovely trial.
Okay. And do you introduce yourself?
Yes.
What do you say?
You know, I believe I asked, you know, when I make calls, it's usually, hi, is so-and-so there, so hi, is Kim Blandino or is Mr. Blandino there, please? And I believe he said something like speaking. I go, hi, I'm Michael, this is Michael Federico, whatever. You know, it's been a while, I can't remember everything or that much really, but generally that's the way it was, and he was stunned, almost giddy about the fact that he was talking to me, or at least he thought so. And I think he double-checked and asked me a couple things to screen me to make sure it was me. I don't remember exactly, but there was a point of almost giddiness, and he said a few times throughout this conversation, I just can't believe I'm talking to Michael Federico right now. And I'm thinking to myself, fortunately, well, you're not really talking to me, you're talking to, you know, the government through me, because I'm not going to say this kind of stuff without me directly.
And so you introduced yourself, you said it's you, you didn't tell them that these task force officers, Detective Meade and Marshal Marowitz, are there in the room with you.
No, I didn't tell him that.
And they didn't say anything so that he could be alerted to their presence.
Correct.
And you and Mr. Blandino had a conversation on the phone.
Yeah, it was long. I mean, and I didn't even talk that much. He talked a lot. I think the call might have, I mean, I don't know what the time would have been, but I think it was 15, 20 minutes. And the goal there was to get him to explain what he wanted. And the officers gave me some suggestions, like for example, I think I said, do you want me to change a ruling on something? Do you want me to like reverse or vacate your contempt? You know, things that you would never, ever do as a judge, at least that walks the straight line. I was just trying to come up with things on my own. What things would I never do or never listen to? And it, you know, made me feel bad for myself because I'm like, I didn't want to say these things, but we're trying to get him to come out and talk more.
Fair to say that the law enforcement officers, they were giving you, they passed you a couple notes with questions, right?
When I wasn't getting anywhere because he insisted upon meeting in person. This guy wanted to be within my presence. He wanted to meet, and he was insistent upon it. So when I was failing, and I guess with what I was supposed to be trying to do there, they passed a few notes. I think they showed a couple, I don't remember exactly, but I know that there was at least 2 notes passed to me with some ideas as we were listening to him ramble on, and I did present them. I presented them to you guys.
And so you indicated that you asked him, what do I have to do? What is the settlement here? Is that kind of...
What's it gonna take to get rid of you, basically? And then when he wanted to meet in person, I tried to offer him.
So his response to most all of that was wanting to meet you in person?
He was extremely, extremely insistent. This guy just wanted to be in my presence, you know. Couldn't shake him off that. I mean, I obviously failed at what I was trying to do initially because he just insisted. That's all I remember from it. He just rambled on, and we got to meet, we have to meet, I need to see you. You know, it was a little scary, but obviously I had a goal in mind to try to get him to open up and say what he wanted.
And you said that you had specifically asked him at one point, do you want me to remove the contempt time?
It was something like that. I don't remember exactly. It's been several years.
And he said no, as you recall?
I don't remember what his answer was. I think no matter what I offered him, he just wanted to meet in person.
Okay.
That's all I really heard. I mean, I didn't even hear half the stuff because he kept rambling on and going on probably about religious beliefs or whatever. I mean, it was incoherent, too fast. If people talk too fast, you can't comprehend what they're saying.
Okay. And so, as you're sitting there talking to these detectives, and they pass you these notes, is that right?
We weren't really talking. There was facial gestures like I'm going.
Talking to Mr. Blandino, the detectives are passing you notes, right?
That's correct.
And you had saved some of those notes.
I did.
There's 2 notes, right?
Yes.
And I have those here as admitted by stipulation as State's Exhibit 33 and State's Exhibit 34, showing you those on the screen. Are these the notes?
Yes.
Okay. So we're looking at State's Exhibit 34. Does this indicate these are notes that were written by the detective? Or
Yes.
one of the detectives?
Yes.
The first one, what does that say?
It looks like it's in different handwritings. None of it's my handwriting. It's either Marowitz or Detective Mead. I don't know who wrote what. I don't remember. It was kind of on the fly as I'm like, hey, I don't have anything to offer. Anyway. This note says, I'm an attorney. I'm not going to go blind into negotiations. Trying to get clarification prior to looks like a meeting. And then ask what happens if I don't agree to meet.
Okay. And showing you State's Exhibit 33, the last one's 34. Are these 2 notes here?
Yeah, it looks like the same handwriting, 1 and 2. One says, what are your terms of settlement? And number 2 is, what do you want to see happen?
Okay. And these were the detective's notes?
One of them, I don't know which one. I don't know which one was passing.
One of the 2 detectives wrote all of these notes?
I think they both wrote some, because there might be 2 different handwritings, but I don't know who wrote what.
Okay, these were not your personal notes,
None.
but these were given to you during the call?
Yeah, we were at a big table and they were kind of showing them to me, or as I'm like, putting my hands up like, I can't get this guy to agree to something.
Okay, and nowhere in the detective's notes do they say, hey, I'll give you an apology, I'll remove your contempt time, I'll pay you money, any of that, right?
There was no offers, and I wouldn't have said anything like that.
Okay.
I mean, even under, request.
During this entire call, you made no offers to do anything, is that right?
Correct, we wanted his offers.
What he was looking for.
Right, more details because he was vague.
And so ultimately, this call goes on for a while, and Mr. Blandino wanted to meet with you. Was that ever a consideration?
It wasn't gonna happen as far as I was concerned.
Okay.
Especially with any place that didn't have, metal detectors or anything, because anything could be used as a deadly weapon. I'm not gonna go down like that,
Okay. So what do you guys end up agreeing upon?
That he would provide me with some kind of terms of agreement. I don't remember what it was called. Probably wasn't called a release or settlement agreement, but send me something in writing, and I believe I gave him my office email address so that he could do so, and he agreed to it.
And you confirmed his email address as well, right?
I believe it was the same one on all those other documents that we went over.
And he provided that to you during the call.
Yes.
And then around approximately 12:58 p.m., that phone call ended, is that right?
Most likely, yes. I wouldn't know an exact time, but whatever. Yes.
Okay. And is it fair to say that the call ended with kind of that being what was settled upon by you and Mr. Blandino is Mr. Blandino would think about what he wants and he would send you whatever he wants?
Right, make me an offer.
Okay.
That was the goal, make me a detailed offer that would wrap everything up.
And this was all based upon Mr. Blandino having now twice in April of 2019 come to you seeking something from you.
Correct.
What he called the settlement.
Seeking something from Judge Federico, basically.
Now, a couple days passed by, is that right?
Yes.
And on May 2nd, 2019, you end up getting one email from Kim Blandino, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I have here what's been admitted by stipulation as State's Exhibit 5. It's multiple pages. Do you recognize what it is we're looking at here?
That's on the top, that's emailing this to myself so it doesn't get deleted. Because, you have things sent, or you're supposed to clean out your email box every once in a while so that the server doesn't get, overloaded at the office. And so the bottom email is, it says Kim Blandino, and then his email address, Thursday, May 2nd, 2019, 8:20 p.m. It says draft of settlement agreement, and he says, here's the proposed draft of settlement agreement. Like I said, up on top, it's just me sending this to myself so that it doesn't get purged.
All right.
Another look at.
Now, so you indicated that you had emailed it to yourself to make sure it was saved.
Yeah, and kept on top of my emails because I get a lot of emails every day at the office.
And that had Federico proposed settlement as an attachment to it, a PDF.
That's what it says there.
Okay, and that was on the original email, is that correct?
Yes.
And so it indicates that this email was sent by Mr. Blandino May 2nd, 2019 at 8:20 p.m. Is that right?
Yes.
To you, Michael Federico?
Yes.
And was that at your work email that you had provided him?
Yes.
And the subject line is what?
Draft of settlement agreement, that was from Mr. Blandino.
Okay, that's something that was typed on Mr. Blandino's end as the subject?
Yes.
And then what does it say there?
Michael attached his proposed settlement, Michael attached his proposed draft of settlement agreement. If acceptable, you can sign and I can get to your office same day or next day to sign, same original. Let me know expeditiously, Kim Blandino, his telephone number.
Okay, his telephone number is 702-219-5657.
That's the phone that we called him on, I believe.
Okay. Turn to the next page. Is this the attachment here, the first page of the attachment with he had as the PDF, the proposed settlement agreement?
Yes, that attachment got to my office to one of his emails, yes.
Okay. Now,
If I'm gonna read anything, I wouldn't mind
Yeah.
having a hard copy. It's
Yeah.
easier than looking at that.
I'm just gonna take a hard copy of this one. All right, may I approach your honor?
Yeah.
I just have a copy. I mean, I've shown it to defense counsel. You can go ahead and review that so that it's easier for you to read from it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so, again, like we did with the last ones, here we are, State's Exhibit 5. starting from the top, what was it that Mr. Blandino titled this document?
Settlement agreement and release.
Okay. What is a settlement agreement?
It's agreement between parties to resolve a matter. In my realm, it's usually an injured party and the defendant or the non-claimant agrees to pay something in exchange for not bringing suit or dismissing a suit. You know, personal injury, like all the commercial CMTV, that's what you see these usually.
But you never tell somebody that you're not gonna file criminal charges against them.
No,
That would be unethical,
from what I see on the news, you go to jail for that.
illegal.
Yes,
So you don't do that in any settlement agreements that you've worked on?
no, that's not worth my license.
Or here, you refer to holding back charges with the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, is that right? That's what
Where are you? I apologize.
That's what this document contains.
Oh, yes.
So let's start from the top. It says, this settlement agreement and release, and then in parentheses, and quotes, agreement. What does that indicate?
Basically, we're going to agree to some terms, and in exchange, he's going to, I guess, release me from his right to make more complaints.
So we'll know as we go through this document, as Mr. Blandino's titled it, agreement, it would be referring to this overall document, is that right?
That's correct.
It's made between the following parties, and what does it say from that point?
Complainant Kim Blandino, pro se litigant, and investigative journalist and volunteer unpaid investigator for the Commission on Judicial Discipline, in quotes, parentheses, I'm sorry, in parentheses, quote, NCJD, end quote, end parentheses.
Okay, I'll stop you right there. So here, Mr. Blandino has again identified himself as one of his capacities being a volunteer, unpaid investigator for the Commission on Judicial Discipline.
Correct.
And he's holding himself out to you in this alleged settlement agreement in that capacity.
Yeah, basically an official trying to strong arm me to do something.
Okay.
That's why I looked at it.
And then underneath that, and just to be clear, that identifies complainant. Is that something that we're going to see written throughout this document?
I believe so.
So
He speaks in the first person a lot too.
where we see complainant, would that refer to Mr. Blandino?
According to his writing, yes.
Okay. And then below that, there's a numeral 2, is that right?
Yes,
And that identifies respondent, is that right?
yes.
And who does that identify as the respondent?
Michael Federico in, quote, Federico. Okay,
Okay.
that's what he's gonna refer to me as in here, is Federico.
So you're going to either be referred to as respondent or Federico.
According to that line, yes.
And based upon the line above, Mr. Blandino is either going to be referred to as complainant or Kim.
Yes.
Okay. And then following through on number 2, how does it address you as Mr. Federico, the respondent?
It says respondent Michael Federico, alternate judge for Department 20, Courtroom 1C, Las Vegas Municipal Court at the Regional Justice Center, RJC, on April 25th, 2019, for the morning session.
Okay. So this is sent to you in your capacity as a judge pro tempore.
Yes.
And then below that, what does it say?
From time to time, herein, all of these parties may be referred to collectively as the, quote, settling parties, end quote.
Okay. So this top of this document here has defined who's involved in it. Is that right?
Yes,
And how they're going to be referred to throughout this document.
yes,
Then we go down, Roman numeral 1, it says recitals, is that correct?
yes.
And what is contained under there?
You want me to read it all?
Yeah, please go section by section.
Okay. 1.1, Kim has presented to Federico a document on April 25th, 2019, at his office at 9950 West Cheyenne, Las Vegas, Nevada 89129, which is attached here to as Exhibit 1S, offering to settle various issues without having to involve the NCJD. Exhibit 1S establishes the incident at hand for which Kim has complaint against Federico for the activities on April 25th, 2019, as described herein and alluded to in paragraph 2 above.
Okay, there's a lot there. So Kim has presented to Federico a document on April 25th, 2019 at his office at 9950 West Cheyenne, Las Vegas, Nevada. So specifically there, Mr. Blandino is indicating, referring back to the document we just went over, that he dropped off at your office on April 25th, 2019.
I believe that refers to that second writing that I talked about this morning.
Right, which you have brought in and is contained as States Exhibit 1, within States Exhibit 1, it's 1A and 1B.
Yes.
Okay. It indicates within States Exhibit 5 here that that was attached as Exhibit 1S, right?
Yes.
In fact, the PDF document you got, as we flip through it here on May 2nd, 2019, didn't contain any attachments.
I don't believe so.
And so, despite the fact that the body of this document referring to Exhibit 1S, it was not included when you first received it.
You forgot.
Okay. And we'll find that out later on because you get a follow-up communication from Mr. Blandino, correct?
Like a day or two later, say, oh, I forgot to attach this.
Okay. Now, we go on. Here, still looking at 1.1. He indicates there that document from April 25th, 2019 is offering to settle various issues without having to involve the NCJD.
Correct.
And we know from Mr. Blandino's prior writings what he is referring to when he says NCJD, is that right?
Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline.
Okay. And then it goes on, that exhibit establishes the incident at hand for which Kim has complaint against Federico for the activities of April 25th, 2019,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then it goes on to 1.2. What is indicated in 1.2?
1.2, that Kim has previously come to Federico's office at the aforementioned address weeks ago in the hopes of catching Federico at said office to speak face-to-face and man-to-man about resolving issues from 2018 of complaint by Kim against Federico.
Okay. So this particular portion here, Mr. Blandino is specifically mentioning that he was at your office before,
Admissions, yeah.
and he was there to talk about events from 2018.
That's correct.
Based upon your testimony, the only events that existed in 2018 was the traffic trial in August that you presided over, right?
Yes.
Okay. And here in 1.2, Mr. Blandino further indicates that he was hoping to catch you off guard, or hoping to catch you at your office to speak face-to-face and man-to-man about those issues. Is that right?
That's what it says.
Okay. And then we go to 1.3. What does that say?
Because Federico was not at said office, Kim wrote an impromptu note to Federico to hopefully resolve issues without having to file with the NCJD. A copy of said impromptu note is attached as Exhibit 2S, which Kim left with the receptionist at 9950 West Cheyenne.
So the 1.3 section appears to refer to States Exhibit 2A and 2B that you previously testified about. Is that right?
Yes.
There, Mr. Blandino's putting it right out there that he was up here at your office again and gave the note that he wrote to your receptionist.
No shame making these admissions again.
Okay.
I mean, laying it out, pretty much what happened.
And then we go to 1.4. What does that say?
1.4, that as stated in the 1S and the exhibits attached thereto, Federico ordered Kim out of the courtroom 1C on April 25, 2019 for the stated reasons of Kim having visited Federico's office Said order demands Kim leave within 10 seconds under the threat of being found in contempt and put in jail. That Kim was thus denied, on the next page, the ability to report and investigate Federico's activities from the bench in an open courtroom on the aforementioned date.
Okay. And then that appears to deal exactly with what you previously testified to, the April 25th court date where he just shows up in your courtroom when he's not accountable.
Yes.
Okay. What about 1.5? Can you read that to us?
Sure. 1.5, that on April 29, 2019 at 12:37 p.m., the respondent did call complainant on the phone, and they did speak to each other for approximately 18 minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there. Responded, it says respondent did call complainant, based upon what we saw earlier that you, sir, did call Mr. Blandino, correct?
The one where I was with the police officer, yes.
Okay, that's the same date, April 29, 2019.
Yes.
And Mr. Blandino has indicated here that it was at 12:37 p.m.
Yes.
Okay. And then what does it say go on from that point?
I'm sorry, where did I stop?
Start, respondent did call complainant on the phone.
Oh, Mr. That on April 29, 2019 at 12:37 p.m., the respondent did call complainant on the phone, and they did speak to each other for approximately 18 minutes, and the respondent asked complainant what it would take to settle issues, and the complainant told the respondent that at a minimum an apology would be needed. That complainant told the respondent that the complainant would get back to the respondent by a settlement and took down on paper the respondent's email. That this draft document represents complainant's good faith effort to settle matters for the April 25th, 2019 incident.
Okay. So here, this section, 1.5, Mr. Blandino has indicated what he recalls of your phone conversation with them. Is that right?
Yes.
That during the call, you had said, what would it take to settle this, correct?
Yes.
And that he said he's gonna need some time to think about it, essentially.
That was at the end of the call,
Yeah.
when he finally agreed.
And so he says he'll get back to you, correct?
Yes.
And this document here is him getting back to you.
Yes.
Now
The
we
first
go
time anyway, yes.
to Roman numeral 2, that's entitled Agreement. You see that section?
Yes.
It starts at 2.1 as the first paragraph. Can you read that for us?
Yes. In consideration for the terms set forth herein, complainant shall accept the lump sum of $25 for the repayment of the cost of the jabs for April 25th, 2019 incident that was already ordered by Kim on April 25th, 2019.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there. So the $25, this first paragraph of the section marked as 2.1 indicates that Kim Blandino will accept $25 from you,
Yes.
and then he specifically mentions that it's related to paying him back for the jabs,
Correct.
which is, as we know, the video system in the courtroom.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is it right here. It says jabs right in front of me.
There you go, right here on
I
this.
never noticed it before. No, yes.
Now, that section goes on. Up here it says in consideration, it starts off that way. Does that term mean anything to you?
It's kind of a legal term of art, consideration. In other words, to have some kind of contract, like, you know, I want you to do something, there has to be some consideration, otherwise there's no way to bind the person that agreed to it to actually do whatever we agreed to. In other words, hey, can you go get my mail? Well, there's no contract there, because there's no consideration. Hey, if I give you $25, can you go get my mail today? And then I rely upon that later on, and you could kind of be in trouble for breaching the contract. So it's a term of art in contracts.
In a context where it's not a legal contract, this would be like a quid pro quo?
Quid pro quo is legal mumbo jumbo, so to speak.
So this would be a quid pro quo. This, Mr. Blandino is telling you, this is what I will accept from you
Yes.
in this section. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So, number one, he'll accept $25 from you.
Yes.
And then we go on, starting at the second paragraph of 2.1, and beginning with additionally. Can you read that to us?
Yes. Additionally, the respondent shall apologize in writing prior to May 30th, 2019 to the complainant for ordering the complainant out of courtroom 1C of the RJC on April 25th, 2019 within 10 seconds under threat of being in contempt and put in jail, and acknowledge that complainant has a right to observe court proceedings in the future unless proceedings are specifically sealed or closed to the public.
Okay. He says he'll now responded, you, Mr. Federico, in your capacity as a judge, as he's indicated here, right,
Yes.
shall apologize to him in writing.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is only for that one day, it wasn't for the other trial.
Judges issue writings at times, is that right?
Say that again?
Judges, in your capacity as a judge, if you issue a writing, would that generally be called an order?
Correct.
Okay, so written writing by a judge is generally something that has some legal effect.
Yes.
And here he wants you to have a writing where you apologize to him,
Yes.
as well as, yeah, Siri is going off here. So, in addition to asking for the apology, he wants you to also acknowledge that he, Mr. Blandino, has a right to observe court proceedings in the future unless the proceedings are specifically sealed or closed to the public.
Correct.
So he wants you in your capacity as a judge to write a document that says, I'm sorry, and you have all these rights, essentially saying, I can't keep you out of my courtroom ever.
Yes.
Okay. Despite the fact that he's showing up to your private law office,
Right, this is all, yeah, he's only talking about April 25th here so far.
okay. And then we go on to the next paragraph of 2.1 that begins with additionally. What does that say?
Additionally, respondent agrees to complete at his own personal expense, quote, ethics, fairness, and security in your courtroom and community, end quote, in person in Reno, October 21st through 24th, 2019, or in the alternative to pay $500 to Clark County Law Library and give a copy of any receipt to complainant prior to October 31st, 2019.
Okay. So here he wants you, Mr. Federico, in your capacity as a judge pro tem, to go complete some class.
Apparently, multiple day class in Reno.
Okay, the class is in Reno, Nevada, lasting from October 21st to October 24th, 2019.
Yes,
You need to pay for that class,
apparently so.
you need to travel up to Reno,
Yes,
and you need to go take whatever class this is.
yes,
And then, or you have another option, is that right?
yes,
You pay $500 to the Clark County Law Library.
yes,
So now we have in 2.1, pay him $25, right?
yes,
Give him an apology where you also acknowledge that he has a right to be in your courtroom,
yes,
and either travel up to Reno for several days in October and take a class, or pay $500 to the Clark County Law Library.
yes,
So, 4 specific things that he wants you to do. The last 2 of them, it's your choice.
correct.
Okay, Mr. Dickerson, we need to stop now.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
During this recess, you're not to discuss or communicate with anyone, including your fellow jurors, in any way regarding the case or its merits, either by voice, phone, email, text, internet, or other means of communication or social media, or read, watch, or listen to any news or media accounts or commentary about the case, or do any research such as consulting dictionaries, using the internet, or using reference materials, making the investigation, test a theory of the case, recreating the aspects of the case, or in any other way investigate or learn about the case on your own, or express any opinion regarding the case till it's finally submitted to you. We're going to be in recess now till 12:30, so we're going to take our lunch. I have to do some other hearings now, so we'll be in recess till 12:30, and Officer Hawks will greet you and bring you in when we're ready.
Thank you. All right, for acting jury, please. Jurors, please leave your notebooks.
Okay, anything outside the presence?
No, Your Honor. Oh.
Well, we just, Your Honor, I did have an opportunity, I believe
Detective Mead
Yeah,
and,
Detective Mead and is it Marshall? Their notes that they took during the phone call, they have them with them. I did, just now have an opportunity to go in there and meet with them and review their handwritten notes of the phone call on the 29th of April. So I just wanna make that record. I did, get a chance just now to, review those notes.
and we just became aware, today, right before, Mr. Bateman went to go look at those notes, that those notes existed. We did not have those in our possession. So they brought them with them, and we, gave Mr. Bateman the
How do you know
opportunity.
they had them? They told you?
Yeah,
Okay. All right, but you've had an opportunity to review them?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Are these different notes?
You can bring the camera in.
Yes, ma'am.
That's key.
For the presence of the jury panel
we do, Your Honor.
and the defense,
Yes, sure.
Thank you, everyone. Please be
you
seated.
may continue
Thank
with
you,
your
Judge.
direct examination.
So when we left off, we were at, we were on State's Exhibit 5. Okay, I'll put up on the screen here for you.
Would I be able to have my copy back?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you took it. If not, it's fine.
No, it's fine. Take that. Yes. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. We're going to be on page 2 of the document,
I got it.
and specifically at the section that is marked 2.2.
Yes.
Okay. So we just completed going through 2.1, is that right?
Yes.
Where Mr. Blandino had requested $25 payment from you,
Yes.
an apology in writing,
Yes.
your acknowledgement that he can observe any court proceedings in the future,
Yes.
and then you going to a class in Reno from August 21st to 24th, 2019, and/or paying $500 to the Clark County Law Library.
Yes.
And that had the last payment to the Clark County Law Library had to take place before October 31st, 2019.
Yes.
Now, the next section below that is at 2.2.
Yes.
Can you please read that for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
Respondents and released parties are not responsible for distribution or apportionment of lump sum settlement proceeds. That complainant, Kim, is solely responsible for returning said $25 to the party that gave Kim the $25 to remit to the court for said jabs, and the respondent has no responsibility for any distribution of the aforementioned funds. That the complainant shall defend, indemnify, and hold respondent, the released parties, and their counsel harmless from and against any claims or disputes arising between complainant as to apportionment and or distribution of the aforementioned sum.
Okay. Go on to the next page. States Exhibit 5.
2.3,
2.3 at the top of what is marked page 3 at the bottom.
the settling parties each agree to bear their own costs and attorney's fees, if any. The complainant shall and hereby do expressly release any and all claims against the respondent and the released parties for attorney's fees, costs, and investigation expenses and travel expenses that set forth more fully below.
Okay. And then below, we have a section with a Roman numeral 3 entitled release, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you please read that paragraph underneath release?
You mean starting for purposes?
Yes, sir.
For purposes of this release and this agreement, the term, quote, related persons, end quote, shall include for each releasing or released party any and all of that party's past, present, and future agents, attorneys, experts, partners, legal representatives, heirs, administrators, trustors, trustees, beneficiaries, assigns.
Okay. And then below that, it starts at section 3.1, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you please read 3.1?
Release, as a consideration for the promise made herein, the complainant does on behalf of himself and his related persons does hereby release and further discharge respondent and all released parties and each of their related persons from any and all actual potential claims, demands, actions, suits, and causes of action of whatsoever kind and nature, at law or in equity, whether known or unknown, arising out of or related to, one, any and all occurrences on April 25th, 2019 between complainant and respondent, including any complaints to the NCJD.
Okay. Again, the complainant in this particular document, as Mr. Blandino has referred to himself, is Mr. Blandino is indicated on the first page of this document. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then the respondent is you, sir, Mr. Federico?
Yes.
So in looking to 3.1, it indicates that that word again, consideration, the quid pro quo, is that right?
Yes.
So in consideration, the quid pro quo for you paying the $25, apologizing in writing, taking the class, or paying the $500 to the Clark County Law Library is that he is, Mr. Blandino is agreeing here that he will release you, Mr. Federico, from any and all claims related to the April 25th, 2019 court appearance or in-court event, is that right?
Yes.
And that he specifically says here, including any complaints to the NCJD, which we know to be Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline.
Yes.
Okay. Below that, section 3.2, can you please read that?
Waiver, the settling parties and their respective related persons acknowledge and understand that, one, there is a risk that now or subsequent to the execution of this agreement, complainant may have or may discover some claim, loss, right, damage, or cause of action that is unknown and unanticipated at the time this agreement is signed, and two, that some claim, loss, right, damage, or cause of action which is presently known or which should be known may become more serious than they now expect or anticipate. Nevertheless, the complainant and the respective related persons hereby expressly waive all rights they may have in such unknown and unexpected consequences or results as if those claims, losses, rights, damages, or causes of action were known or should have been known to the settling parties at the time of this agreement. The settling parties and the respective related persons agree that this agreement shall be given full force and effect in accordance with each and all of its express terms and provisions relating to unknown and unsupported claims, losses, rights, damages, or causes of action to the same effect as those terms and provisions relating to any other such claims released herein.
Okay. There's one word there that's 3 lines up at the end of that line. Instead of unsupported, was it unsuspected?
Unsuspected, yes.
Okay.
That's my fault.
And then below that, we have section 3.3, is that right?
Yes.
Can you please read that?
Covenant not to sue. Complainant, covenant and agree that he has not and shall not bring any other action, claim, suit, or proceeding against anyone, including Michael Federico, in any capacity, either individually or in his official capacity, for any activities on or about April 25th, 2019, including any complaints to the NCJD. Further, complainant agrees he will withdraw and otherwise voluntarily dismiss the customer feedback form attached to Exhibit 1L to Exhibit 1S.
Okay. So here, this is page 3 to 4 states of the agreement or the documents attached to states Exhibit 5. This is complainant being Mr. Blandino, correct?
Yes.
Indicates here that he has not brought any complaint or claim against you at this point in time.
Yes.
And then he's saying that he also will not as a result of you giving him what he's asking for.
Correct.
Okay. And that includes, specifically includes any complaints to the NCJD, which we know is Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline.
Yes.
Okay. Below that, we have section 3.4. Can you please read that.
Authority for release, in addition to the general provisions on authority to enter into this agreement set forth in the recitals, complainant does hereby expressly warrant and affirm that complainant has the authority and capacity to enter into this agreement and provide the releases required here under.
Okay? And if you could please read 3.5.
Reservation of rights pursuant to NRS 101.050 is expressly agreed by and between the settling parties that this agreement shall not release or discharge co-obligors, and that the respondent shall retain and reserve all rights against co-obligors pursuant to NRS 101.050.
Okay. Did that particular provision have any meaning to you?
I think it suggested that, other people are involved,
Yeah, and
co-obligors.
were there?
No,
Okay.
just him and me and him representing himself to be some government official.
Okay, and then we go to 3.6. This section is titled Death of Respondent
Oh, yeah.
Prior to Payment, is that right?
Yes,
There's a highlight on this section, is that correct?
yes,
On 3.6 and 3.7, do you know where those highlights came from?
no,
Okay. You don't recall whether you were highlighting those when you first read this document?
I may have, I just do not recall.
Okay,
Probably did because those were ones that stuck out in my mind, but I don't recall specifically doing it, but
okay.
I could say more likely than not, it was me if it came from me.
Okay. Now, this 3.6, death of respondent prior to payment. Respondent is you, Mr. Federico.
Yes.
Okay, so this is essentially death of Mr. Federico prior to these payments.
Correct.
Okay, can you please read this for the jury?
Death of respondent prior to payment, that's 3.6. Should the death of the respondent occur after signature of this agreement but before payment of the above $25 sum, then the complainant will be entitled to receive the payment from the estate of the respondent by and because of this provision included herein.
What is your estate? What is that?
Oh, that would be if somebody did something to me and I was deceased, then whatever I own goes into an estate, I guess.
Okay.
Although I'm married, so she probably would get everything.
Okay, so here, this provision is indicating that if you die before you pay Mr. Blandino $25, then your estate, your wife, or your family is gonna owe him that $25.
Sounded like it, yes.
Okay,
Focus in on my death.
Okay.
So, I don't know.
and then 3.7 under that, what does that indicate?
3.7, death of respondent prior to payment to the National Judicial College in Reno for a course cited above.
Okay, and so this, again, death of respondent, this is dealing with the death of you, sir, Mr. Federico.
My demise, apparently, yes.
Okay, you can please read that to the jury.
Death of respondent prior to payment to the National Judicial College in Reno for a course cited above. Should the respondent's death occur prior to payment for the above mentioned course or to the Clark County Law Library, the complainant will be entitled by this provision to the payment that would otherwise have been made to the National Judicial College for tuition from the estate of the respondent by and because of this provision, including herein, as the attendance of respondent after death would be rendered moot. The complainant would and will then distribute those above mentioned funds to the Clark County Law Library for their use.
Okay. So, this is saying that $500 that Mr. Blandino is asking for to go to the Clark County Law Library, should you die, then that needs to be paid to him, and he indicates that he will distribute those funds to the Clark County Law Library.
Yes.
When you read those provisions, what, if anything, did you think?
It's a death threat. Absolutely.
Did you feel concerned?
Yeah, yes.
Below that, we have a section that's Roman numeral 4, is that right?
Yes.
This indicates miscellaneous representations and warranties.
Yes.
Okay. Can you please read what is marked in section 4.1 of that?
4.1, each of the settling parties in this agreement represents and warrants and agrees with each other hereto as follows. A, each settling party represents and warrants that it has had the opportunity to seek representation by counsel or to seek advice of counsel with respect to the execution of this agreement. This agreement shall be considered jointly drafted such that no provision in law or in equity whereby a document is construed against the drafter shall have any applicability in the enforcement of the terms herein. B, each settling party to this agreement has made such investigation of the facts pertaining to the settlement as it deems necessary in order to enter into this agreement.
Go to the next page.
C, the settling parties acknowledge that this agreement represents a good faith settlement of the issues of April 25th, 2019. That this agreement is intended to bar any complaint against the respondent by a complainant with the NCJD or any court, board, agency, or reviewing entity whatsoever with respect to the issues of April 25th, 2019.
Okay, so this particular section, subsection C of this portion, indicates that this agreement is intended to bar any complaints against you by Mr. Blandino with respect to the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline.
Yes.
Okay. In exchange for you giving everything that he's asked for.
Yes.
And it also indicates, in addition to the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, that will also bar any complaint to any court, board, agency, or reviewing entity whatsoever.
Yes.
Agency could include any government agency.
Anything and everything. I mean, it's very broad.
Law enforcement.
Yes.
Okay. But then it specifies that this is with respect to the issues of April 25th, 2019.
Just that one day.
Okay. Then we go on to subsection D. Can you please read that and just keep going through?
The settling parties will execute all such further and additional documents as shall be reasonable, convenient, necessary, or desirable to carry out the provisions of this agreement. Keep going.
Yes, please.
E, the prevailing party in any action brought to enforce the terms of this agreement shall be entitled to its attorney's fees and costs incurred in enforcing this agreement. F, this agreement shall be deemed to have been delivered within the state of Nevada, and the rights and obligations of the settling parties hereto shall be construed and enforced in accordance with and governed by the laws of the state of Nevada. G, this agreement may not be modified except through a writing signed by all parties charged or benefited by the modification hereto. H, if any provision of this agreement is held by a court of competent jurisdiction to be invalid, void, or unenforceable for whatever reason, the remaining provisions not so declared shall continue in full force and effect without being impaired in any manner whatsoever. I, the settling parties agree that the 8th Judicial District Court, Clark County, Nevada, shall retain jurisdiction over this matter for purposes of enforcing any provisions of this agreement, except that if disqualification of judges of the 8th Judicial District Court is required and a judge from another district is required to be assigned to the case, or a change of venue is required by either party, such will be allowed by either party without objection.
There's a bold section at the end. What does that say?
In bold, it says, I'm sorry, in capitals, it says, the settling parties hereby certify that settling parties have read the settlement agreement and fully understand same, and in witness thereof, settling parties have executed this agreement in place and on the places and on the dates set forth opposite their respective signatures below. It is so agreed, and then it has names and.
It says complainant, is that right?
Yes.
And then it goes on to the next page with signature lines, is that right?
Correct.
The signature line states, I declare under penalty of perjury that the foregoing is true and correct, that this is my signature below, executed on this date, on this blank day of blank 2019, followed by Kim Blandino and his address.
Yes.
And then it says respondent with the same declaration and followed by your name and your work address.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's the address at your law office, correct?
Yes.
When you received this letter, you here received it apparently sent to you in your capacity as a Las Vegas Municipal Court Judge Pro Tem, is that right?
Yes.
And you were president of the state of Nevada at the time, right?
Yes. I was in my law office.
and you received this letter, the email itself with the attachment at your law office here in Clark County, is that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, that is May 2nd, 2019. Do you then hear from Mr. Blandino the following day, on May 3rd, 2019?
I believe so.
Okay. I have here.
The paperwork would have the actual dates. I don't remember the exact dates off the top of my head.
Okay, yeah, well, I have here within, admitted by stipulation, that states Exhibit 6. So I'm going to publish that. It's a multi-page document, as you can see. Do you see what we're looking at here on the front page?
Yes,
Okay, what is this?
that's the email from the defendant, knowing that he forgot to attach exhibits to the proposed settlement, and it says, here is that complete package attached, and then it has his name, and he's always identifying himself with his name and address, name and telephone number.
Okay, same telephone number we've seen this whole time?
Yep. Yes.
Same telephone number that you called him on April 29th.
Same number.
And the subject line of this particular email says what?
Forgot to attach exhibits to prior email, and then it says the attachments, proposed settlement with exhibits .pdf.
Okay, this came from that same email address that we talked about before, Kim Blandino's email address, kim43792@earthlink.net, is that right?
Yeah, it's pretty unique because you don't see Earthlink too much.
And it was sent to your work email?
Yes.
Okay. When you received this, you were also a resident of Clark County.
Yes.
You received this at your work email located here in Clark County, Nevada.
Yes.
And this particular email, in fact, had an attachment to it.
Yes.
That attachment, is that what we're seeing here in the following pages? That
Yes.
that make up State's Exhibit 6?
Here, so yes.
Okay. We turn the page to the next page, and this, one of those attachments was at the front of it, that same settlement agreement that we just went through.
Yes.
What he's entitled Settlement Agreement and Release, correct?
Yes.
Which is him giving you his demands that we've talked about,
Regarding the one day, the second day that I had an encounter with him.
April 25th, 2019.
Yes.
Though he does mention in here the events of 2018 at 1.2, correct?
Correct.
Though he's indicating nothing about not releasing you from claims for that day.
Right. Just trying to be sneaky.
Is that something that's something you noticed?
Yes.
And so then we go through that, flipping through each page. Is this that same agreement?
I don't have this one in front of me, so
Okay.
it's a little hard to follow.
As you recall, it was the same agreement that you were sent the day before.
Oh, yes.
It just had attachments to it.
Correct.
And now we get to those attachments, is that right?
Yes.
Exhibit 1S, is that what we see here?
Yes.
Okay. And then that is followed by this letter. You recognize this letter?
Yes.
So Exhibit 1S was the letter that Mr. Blandino had dropped off to your office on April 25th, 2019.
Yes.
Okay. And then that particular letter, as you recall, had exhibits attached to it.
Yes.
And so those exhibits that were attached to it ended in what Mr. Blandino had given the letter L at the end. Is that right?
Yes.
And those were attached to the same email PDF.
Yes.
Okay? And then we go through that. This is that, flipping that page, is this that municipal court complaint feedback or customer feedback form that he had sent you before?
Here's some, yes.
And then Exhibit 2L, which was attached to that same letter of April 25th. Flipping the page on that. Does this appear to be the same Veterans in Politics letter that he had attached to that letter?
Yes. It's all the same.
And then we get to Exhibit 3L. Is this also attached to the April 25th letter?
Yes.
And those are the two Commission on Judicial Discipline letters that were sent to Kim Blandino at his address on 16th Street?
Yes, the Judge Hurden and the Judge Fairlands, yes.
Okay. And then we get to this next page after that. It says Exhibit 2S. Is that right?
Yes.
And so this would be the second exhibit to the settlement agreement and release, as he's titled it.
Yes.
We turn the page on that, and you recognize this letter?
Yes, that was the original letter, the first delivery he made. Or not
Okay.
delivery, but he filled it out, yeah.
So this was the note that he wrote for you on April 8, 2019?
Yes, the one we went over yesterday.
Okay. So that's April 3rd. You don't respond to Mr. Blandino?
Not right away, no.
Okay. Though a couple days later, you do, on May 9, 2019, is that right?
Sounds about right. It was an email for him, so.
What's that?
It was in an email, I believe.
Okay.
I never talked to him again on the phone. It's all email, so it was paper trail.
You only had one phone conversation with him, which we've already discussed.
Yes.
And now, in responding to him on May 9th, I'm going to show you here what's been admitted by stipulation in States Exhibit 7. Do you recognize what we're looking at here?
Yes.
Is this, again, an email that, the email chain that you had, and you forwarded it to yourself for archiving?
Yeah, the top of the strike through, that's what I did because I was forwarding it back to myself so things wouldn't inadvertently be deleted. Obviously, I wanted to keep a copy of this
Okay.
on the computer too. And so you gotta read from the bottom, which is if you look at the bottom,
We'll go to that.
that's, okay.
We'll go to that next page. So here at the bottom of this page, there's an email at the bottom. It says May 3rd, 2019, 3:27 p.m. Is that right?
Yes,
And the subject line is forgot to attach exhibits prior to email.
yes,
Then we turn this page and there's the content of that.
right,
Does that say I forgot to attach exhibits to the proposed settlement? Here is the complete package attached with Kim Blandino's name and his phone number.
right,
That's the email that we just looked at.
yes,
And that was the one that contained the, as he called it, settlement agreement and release with the exhibits.
yes, and that's the one I responded to so we can just keep a nice, clean email chain.
So here we have May 9th at 9:20 a.m. Is that you sending this email
Yes,
to Kim Blandino?
yes,
The subject line is the same except it's forgot to attach exhibits to prior email,
yes,
showing that you responded to his prior email that he just sent on the 3rd.
yes.
And what do you say there?
I typed in, please provide a new proposed global agreement that would cover everything in the past you believe to be negative against me so that I can see it. Your current proposed agreement does not resolve everything you seem to be complaining about, and I need a better explanation of what you will attempt to do if I do not agree to your demands. I need to know exactly what you are asking for in exchange for resolving all of your purported, quote, issues, end quote, so that I have it in writing to review. Thank you. That was for me.
Okay, and then that top line, agreement that would cover anything in the past, is that correct?
Anything, yes.
Not everything?
Sorry if I said that.
Yeah.
I'm reading a lot.
No problem. So, this email, is this the normal way that you speak?
Not exactly. I mean,
You were still in consultation with law enforcement officers at this point in time about the investigation that was ongoing?
yeah, that was, in other words, kind of the words of the officers on a telephone call that I took notes down, I believe, or whatever it was, or I might have even typed it. And they said, hold on a second, let me get out here so I can start typing it, and they explained what I should say, because they wanted more information, because he was vague in some of the terms in that very long agreement.
And specifically, it appeared that he was holding something back as released to his complaints as they originally were for the August 2018 event?
Right. I mean, the trial, I didn't really mention the date of the trial, which was his original complaint. Suddenly, he's trying to do something and just focus on the one day when he showed up to my courtroom when there was an active police investigation, and I told him to get out.
And so then he responds to you pretty quickly, is that right?
I believe so.
Is that his email that we see in response above?
Yes,
And so this is from Kim Blandino at that same email address, is that right?
yes,
May 9th, 2019 at 10:48 a.m.
yes,
This is to you, correct?
yes,
Again, to your work email.
yes,
You're receiving this in Clark County, Nevada,
yes,
and the subject is, again, forgot to attach exhibits to prior use, correct?
yes.
And what does Mr. Blandino say here?
Michael, here is a letter that I was just about to send to you before I read your email. I think it covers some of your concerns. I must be leaving very shortly, yet so I am not spinning my wheels. I do need to know if a written apology and the Judicial College course / law library donation is a, quote, bridge too far, end quote, for you as it stands. I now have the jabs and am ordering a transcript. What I am asking for is consistent with remedial action the NCJD has effectuated over decades. I am willing to be flexible and reasonable, yet if the things I proposed are a non-starter for you, I do not want to move forward down a dead end. And then Kim Blandino.
Okay. And there was an attachment to that.
Yes,
And that attachment, is that the same attachment that is noted here, attachments, Federico letter of May 9?
I believe so.
Okay. And is that what we see attached to this exhibit as, this is State's Exhibit 7?
Yep, yes.
So with that May 9th email response, Mr. Blandino sent you yet another document.
Yes, you did.
Okay. This document, what is the date at the top of this document?
May 8th, 2019.
Okay, so it's dated the day before you responded to him.
That's correct.
And just to be clear, going back to his email, at the top of his email, Mr. Blandino indicates, here is a letter that I was just about to send to you before I read your email. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so he was indicating that he already had this letter prepared before he ever got your email.
Yes.
Okay. And who is this letter entitled to?
Michael Federico in his capacity as Judge Pro Tempore.
Okay. Let me see here. Okay. We're going to go through this letter as well. I have another copy.
Could I get a copy, physical copy to look at and read?
Yeah.
It's a little easier than this computer. model.
Absolutely.
Where did you get your highlight?
Me?
Oh, okay, no, that's fine.
Okay, good. Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Okay, so I'm bringing you just a copy of this exhibit
Okay.
so that you have ease of reading.
Would you like me to read it?
Let's take a look at it real quickly. So it's indicated that it's to you again, Michael Federico, in your capacity as Judge Pro Tempore.
Yes,
And it's from Kim Blandino.
yes.
And what is the subject line here?
Follow up to proposed settlement offer sent May 2nd, May 2 and 3.
Okay. If you could please start by reading this document.
Okay. I have not received any word back from you regarding the proposed settlement offer. I spent a great deal of very valuable time preparing that document. I have so very much work to do already as a result of judicial violations. I will need an answer or for you to otherwise respond to this proposed settlement on or before May 23rd, 2019. This is a reasonable time to make a decision, I believe, and is consistent with the various rules of civil procedure, both state and federal. I do appreciate your phone call to me to at least reach out to settle matters, and I sincerely hope that we can settle things. I have been consistent with all of my dealings to attempt to settle matters of dispute in all areas of my life and dealings. Even when I have been at a Home Depot or other retail establishment and have been treated badly by an employee, in that very moment I ask the person for an apology. About 99% of the time, the matter is resolved and there and then. With some, the person refused, and then I escalate the matter to the manager on duty and make a formal complaint. Please know that I am doing this more for the people that follow me and to do my part to help make things better for all with my power to do so. As a person of faith, just faith alone is not enough. It must be accompanied by, with works, that's in quotes, or deeds. The greatest man in the history of this world railed against hypocrisy and told us to love our neighbor as ourselves, that we humans cannot do anything of ourselves, that we are either slaves of evil or servants of good. With that deeds are essential. I've extended a good faith offer for something very serious. You, under threat of contempt of jail, ordered me out of a public courtroom because I came to your office to offer settlement. I have read nearly every case on the, quote, awesome summary contempt power, end quote, and the various law journal articles pertaining to summary contempt. This power can be and is abused. Even the wrongful threat of contempt can be abused. This is what you did. By doing so, you violated important civil rights. In fact, you could be criminally prosecuted for a misdemeanor violation of federal civil rights under 18 U.S.C. section SEC 242 for your action on April 25th, 2019. You can ask just about anyone in the RJC, and they will tell you that Kim Blandino is investigating judicial misconduct and corruption, and has done so for many years. That Kim Blandino not only files complaints with customer feedback forms, but Kim files compliments with customer feedback forms when good service warrants such feedback. So, for you to exclude me from the viewing and taking notes about your activities on the bench, where you hold people's liberty and property at risk, parentheses, and in cases where people jailed have wrongfully died in custody due to negligence or other wrongdoing, end parentheses, their very lives at risk with such circumstances. You ordered me out under threat of being jailed if I did not leave the courtroom. This is terribly, terribly wrong and unlawful. I have already told you that if we cannot settle this matter, I will file a complaint with the NCJD. This must be done to protect the people in the future. Because you only acted in excess of your jurisdiction, I cannot sue you civilly. Because you are not absent all jurisdiction and threatening contempt in an open courtroom is a judicial act, not an administrative or executive act. A civil suit cannot be brought. However, know that I did file a complaint against Judge Herndon, and he was issued a letter of caution by the NCJD. However, because Herndon is subject to a civil suit and Herndon would not settle or even respond to 3 separate requests to settle, Kim filed a civil suit against Herndon. Kim was just granted a stay of appellate proceedings by the 9th Circuit in that suit. See attached Exhibit 1F on the appeal of that civil case against Herndon. Please note that there was a typo where the clerk said, quote, denied as necessary, end quote. Kim was able to contact the clerk, and an amended order was filed to reflect that Kim's request for judicial notice was denied as unnecessary, emphasis added. Kim asked for this stay because there is a real possibility that the NCJD could give relief that could affect the appeal of in a substantial way as regards Herndon.
So, in that particular paragraph, can you read for us again that first sentence?
First sentence of this first paragraph of that page?
Yes.
I have already told you that if we cannot settle this matter, I will file a complaint with the NCJD.
Okay. And then we go on to the next paragraph after that. What does that say?
Kim also did make a criminal complaint against Herndon with the FBI for violation of section 424, Title 18, which
Is that
Kim.
242?
I'm sorry, yeah, 242,
Yeah, 242 Title 18?
yes,
Okay, is that the same, that's the same one you mentioned above for you?
correct.
Okay,
Which Kim was told would be investigated. If we cannot come to a settlement, I believe it would be proper to go to the FBI with a criminal complaint against you for stopping me from observing you on the bench on April 25th, 2019.
one more time, what does that sentence say?
With a criminal complaint against you for stopping me from observing you on the bench on April 25th, 2019.
So,
I mean, there was a,
it
there
says,
was a period.
yeah,
Let me
if,
start over again.
is it if we cannot come to a settlement, I believe it would be proper to go to the FBI with a criminal complaint against you for stopping me from observing you on the bench on April 25th, 2019?
Exactly, yes.
And then what does Mr. Blandino say after that?
Granted, this would only be a misdemeanor, however, it may help others that come after me should you not agree to the apology and settlement. Since it is possible you could become a decent judge someday, redemption is always possible. The very man next to the Savior found redemption in the last 10 seconds of his life, and this story is written for all of us to know that it is never too late.
The paragraph there that we looked at specifically, Mr. Blandino has indicated that he would file a complaint, criminal complaint with the FBI against you for a misdemeanor.
Yes, now things have escalated more with him, yes.
And he specifically says that is, should you not agree to the apology and settlement. Is that right?
That's correct. Okay. Want me to go on?
Yeah, please, that next paragraph entitled additionally.
Okay. Additionally, I have come to realize that since you work within a partnership titled Olson, Cannon, Gormley, Angulo, and Staberski, and then it says OCGAS, that I should give some notice to these individuals of the matters involved prior to filing with the NCJD or the FBI.
And so here he is now talking about your private law firm that you work for.
Yeah, this is a thread on top of a thread, apparently.
And he's indicating that he's going to abbreviate your law firm's name, Olson, Cannon, Gormley, Angulo, and Staberski, as OCGANS with an ampersand symbol?
Yes,
Okay,
that is a common abbreviation.
okay. And so as we go through here, every time we see that, it's going to be referring to your law firm.
Yes,
Okay. Please pick it up from the point where he indicates
I got it.
he'll talk to him prior to filing, that he should give him notice prior to filing with NCJD or the FBI.
The calculus for this is simple. Putting myself in the place of any one of these partners and everything else being equal, I would want to know that a person who worked with the firm and had a prominent web page was not bringing any disrepute in any way to the firm or its name.
One more time, he says his calculus is because he would, if he were at the law firm and running the law firm, he would want to know that you weren't bringing disrepute to the firm?
Right. In other words, hey, you're not going to agree to this, now I'm threatening you with your job.
So he's acknowledged that what he's threatening you with would bring disrepute.
Yeah, that's obvious, but yeah, he's made sure I'm aware of that.
Okay, and were you aware of that at the time? Is that was that your feeling that if it became known that the FBI is investigating you for a crime, that would bring disrepute?
Certainly could have, yes.
If the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, it's known that you have ethical issues or charges with them, that could bring disrepute?
It would in my eyes if I was the attorney looking at the other person, yes.
Okay. And those are things that, would those be humiliating?
Beyond, I mean, yeah, it's my license, it's my job, my life, how I support my family.
Okay. So, after the sentence that says, disrepute in any way to the firm or its name, can you pick back up there? Yeah.
OCGAS has been in existence since 1960. It would not be fair or Christian of me not to inform the firm of the issues at hand if we cannot resolve them. I have no idea what agreements there are between you and OCGAS. I therefore have no idea if your agreement requires you to disclose any of what we have discussed so far or not, because the issues involved could affect how OCGAS might be perceived by the public, I believe I must give OCGAS a right to review prior to taking this matter forward. In fact, it is possible that your agreement with them requires you to disclose such things to them. I do not want to hear from you on this. I do want to hear from you on this issue. I do not want you to violate any agreement with them you might have.
Okay, so in this paragraph, he's at this point and later in the paragraph indicated that he feels he must notify your law firm of
Right.
everything that he's been writing to you about.
Because I didn't immediately agree to his terms, yes.
Okay, and he further indicates that he believes it wouldn't be fair or Christian of him not to inform them. Is that right?
That's what it says, yes.
Okay. Can we pick up there at the next paragraph then?
Sure. Therefore, consistent with my beliefs, I will send a copy of all the relevant documents to OCGAS unless I hear from you by Monday, May 15, 2019.
Oh, so he says he'll send everything to your law firm unless he hears from you by Monday, May 15, 2019.
Correct.
But he had indicated that he didn't believe it was fair or Christian of him to not inform your law firm.
Right.
But now he's indicating in the next sentence, quid pro quo. He needs to hear from you by May 15, 2019, or he's sending all this stuff to your law firm.
Right. It's another strong arm tactic, yes.
Okay, please pick up at the next sentence.
For all I know, any agreement with OCGAS may have provisions governing such situations as we have here. I can state with certainty that if I were any one of those partners and Federico did what was done on April 25, 2019 to any human being, I would be very displeased with such action. I would want remedial action as soon as it was possible, and if it was possible. I would not want anyone associated with the firm that had my good name on it, associated with a member of the bar that excluded a member of the public from an open courtroom, let alone an investigator and a journalist from the public courtroom because said person came to a public law office in a good faith attempt to settle differences and a complaint some days earlier. I am sorry I have to cut this letter short. I have worked on this letter now over the course of 2 days and I have to get to the courthouse immediately. I have the jabs, but now I must order the transcript of the 25th. Please excuse any and all spelling and grammar and other errors. I virtually have no time but to eat, sleep, and do legal work dated this 9th day of May 2019 and it appears to be signed by Kim Blandino, pro se, and we have his address, telephone number, and email as we've mentioned many times earlier.
Okay. Right here, where Mr. Blandino apologizes for cutting the letter short, he indicates that he's been working on this letter for how long?
Over the course of 2 days, and then he had to go to the courthouse for something else.
Okay, and then below his signature line, we have a certificate of service as it's titled.
Yes, sir.
And that indicates that Kim Blandino pro se hereby certifies that the service of the foregoing letter with the complaint and attachments was personally emailed to Michael Federico at your work email address. Is that right?
Yes.
And is that in fact where you received it?
Yes.
And it again was dated the 9th day of May, 2019.
Yes.
Signed by Mr. Blandino.
Yes.
And the 9th day of May 2019 was in fact when you received the letter that he had said he was working on for the past 2 days.
I believe so.
Okay. We turned the page on this, and this particular letter also had attachments to it. Is that right?
Yes.
These ones ending in the letter F, correct?
Yes.
Is that what we're seeing here, Exhibit 1F?
Yes.
Turn the page on that. Do you know what this is?
Yeah, hold on a second. I skipped the page, excuse me. It appears to be a federal Ninth Circuit court order regarding a matter that Mr. Blandino filed against Judge Hurden. It says Douglas Hurden.
It says in his official capacity as a state of Nevada judge.
Yes.
And his individual capacity.
Yes.
And then some other individual, Dr. Jeffrey Weinberger.
Correct. That's in the caption, I have no idea.
Okay, and you don't know anything about this case?
Well, I mean, I
You
learned about it, but I didn't have any first-hand knowledge. I had as much knowledge as anybody in the public would have.
You weren't in any way involved in this particular case as a lawyer or anything?
No. I never represented the judge.
And this indicates it's in the federal court, is that right?
Yes.
The Ninth Circuit Court, what is that?
In state, we have a judicial district court, and then we have the Court of Appeals. In federal court, different types of cases, they have federal district court, and then the next level for the appeal is the Ninth Circuit. And that would cover like California, Nevada,
And then
in detail.
above that would be the Supreme Court of the United States.
U.S. Supreme Court is one step above this court, yes.
And essentially, in looking at this order, it says that the appellate proceedings are stayed, briefing schedules are vacated, and really, nothing's really going on,
Yeah, I don't really know.
from just the face of it.
I think he was just puffing to show, hey, look, I got this lawsuit against Judge Hurd.
Okay?
Have a threat. I mean, there's no other reason to have some other judges, some order attached to it other than threatening.
Okay. And then we turn to the next 2 pages. Is this that amended order they talked about?
Apparently so. It looks like it's that same case, and like I said, he's just, again, showing that he sues people.
With the typographical error note?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I never heard of these other lawsuits or whatever until I saw this.
Okay. So, that was a quick response to your email.
Yeah, yes.
And did you email him back?
No.
You didn't send him a letter of your own?
No.
No proposed agreement of your own or anything like that?
Oh, nothing. This went right on to the detective or the marshal.
And
Me almost immediately.
in the meantime, that May 15, 2019 deadline was coming up for him to notify your firm about everything that he had been talking to you about so far.
That's correct.
So May 15th comes around, is that right?
Yes.
And you still haven't talked to Mr. Blandino again?
Correct.
Are you nervous at this time?
I'm not happy.
And are you still talking to law enforcement?
Oh, yes. Like I said, I think I typed hot off the press or something like that when I forwarded this on. Saying, here you go, we got it.
Okay. Now, in the meantime,
Before I even read it, I think I sent it on just to get it to them.
are you worried about what to do and whether he's gonna come back?
Absolutely.
Were you talking to law enforcement about your options to protect yourself?
Correct.
Does that include seeking a protection order to keep Mr. Blandino away from you?
Correct.
And at the time, what was the overall indication?
They asked me to hold on still until they had enough evidence that they could file charges. Please hold on, because, once a case goes into the system, you can get other protections like from the judges in the case.
Okay.
But I was still bare. I mean, I'm carrying a firearm. We got our children, I got my wife, I got my colleagues, other people. Somebody needed to control the situation. Obviously, it was a threat, at least in my eyes.
And so they're doing their investigation. They want you to hold off in case potentially you have to contact them again.
Right.
And they didn't want you to get a protection order and then somehow trick Mr. Blandino into violating a protection order or something like that. That wouldn't have been appropriate at all.
They wanted to keep their investigation clean, and it was at a cost of me worrying more, but I understood what they had to do.
So May 15th passes and we get to May 16th, 2019. I'm showing you here, State's Exhibit 8. You recognize what this is?
Yes.
Go ahead and zoom in for you. This is another one another email with exhibits that you forwarded, or with attachments, I should say, that you forwarded to yourself to archive.
Yes, you read from the bottom up. The top one is just me emailing myself again.
Okay. The email that is the substance of this, who is it from?
Kim Blandino, And then his email address is there, as you can see.
And that's the same email address, kim43792@earthlink.net.
Yeah, the Earthlink one, yes.
And what was the date and time that this was sent, as indicated by the email?
Thursday, May 16, 2019, 11:39 a.m.
And who was this sent to?
Well, there was new people. It was Jim Olson, Walt Cannon, John Gormley, Peter Angulo, Mike Staberski, and then Michael Federico and myself.
And who are Jim Olson, Walt Cannon, John Gormley, Peter Angulo, and Mike Staberski?
That's the OCGAS that you see. In other words, the law firm name. Those are those main partners that were still actively practicing.
And so they run your law firm?
They're the bosses. I might be an attorney, but they're the big guys.
And so they were your bosses?
Correct.
And now, since that May 15th deadline had apparently passed, it appeared that Kim Blandino is now reaching out to all of them. Is that right?
Yes.
And so was this sent to all of their work email addresses, as you're aware?
Yes.
And there were attachments to it, is that right?
Yes.
Those attachments are noted above.
Yes.
Letter to firm of May 16th, PDF, Federico letter of May 9th, PDF, and proposed settlement with exhibits, PDF. Is that right?
Yes.
And were all three of those exhibits in fact attached?
Yes, I believe so.
Mr.
have to see it,
Blandino indicates here, please see 3 attachments for review, is that correct?
Yes.
And then again, gives his name and his phone number that he's given throughout.
Yes.
So, we turn the page, and there's a new,
Is that?
What exhibit number is this? I didn't,
this is gonna be exhibit number 8.
thank you. Sorry, I didn't know.
We turn the page, and is this that first attachment, the letter to the firm on May 16th?
Oh, yes, it is.
And is it dated at the top?
May 16, 2019.
And who is it directed to?
Olson, Cannon, Gormley, Angulo, and Staberski, and CC to Michael Federico.
And who does it indicate it's from?
Kim Blandino.
And what is the subject matter?
Follow up to letter of May 9, 2019, requesting settlement with Michael Federico.
The follow-up to the letter of May 9th, the letter of May 9th was the one where Mr. Blandino had threatened to send all this information to your law firm should you not respond by May 15th?
Correct.
And this is his follow-up to it.
Yes. In other words, going forward with this threat.
So, if you could, and I can get you a copy of this.
I can read it from here. It might be a little bit nice to have variety.
Yeah, let me see. You want to, okay, let's mix it up then. Go ahead.
I've asked an attorney for your firm, Michael Federico, to settle issues in regard to his misbehavior in the Las Vegas Municipal Court in his role as alternate judge. The very last letter that was sent on May 9, 2019 to Federico notified him that if I did not hear anything in response, I would notify the firm. Because Federico and his various activities can reflect either in a positive or negative on your firm, I believe it is necessary to notify you before I file with the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline against Federico. I presume you have a, quote, morals clause, end quote, with any and all attorneys that are associated with your firm. I believe it is also very possible you have a, quote, duty to disclose, end quote, provision as well. So it is very possible that Federico has not disclosed to the firm of my potential formal complaint and dispute with Federico. In any event, my religious beliefs and practices require me to resolve all issues with the persons and parties that have in any way offended. Also, conversely, if I offend, I am obligated to seek resolution with the offended party or their representative, and then, if resolution is not possible, to work my way up through any system of remedies or appeals, as it were. Since I gave Federico till May 23rd to settle before filing a complaint, I gave a deadline of May 15th to at least begin good faith negotiations. I would notify the firm so that the firm has a, quote, heads up if Federico, end quote, if Federico has failed to inform the firm of the situation when he might be required to do so. I attached the prior submissions I have sent to Federico for your review. I also I'm sorry, I have both drafts of the proceedings in the municipal court on April 25th, 2019, and of August 2018, where Federico violated the judicial code as well as other duties, including his oath. The transcript of the April 25 event is at this point being prepared. At this juncture, I believe it is more than reasonable to have a sit-down conference where all can look into the eyes of each other and determine that there is good faith on all sides. I have spent much time presenting a proposed settlement that is attached to this letter and in addressing the issues directly with Federico. My last two complaints to the NCJD resulted in letters of caution to two district court judges. So I do not make frivolous complaints. What Federico did in open court on April 25th to order me out of court within 10 seconds under threat of jailing for coming to the firm's office and leave a letter asking for settlement of issues is blatantly wrong. While it is appreciated that Federico did call me to seek resolution is fine, there must be follow-through. If one is invited to the dance but ignored once at the dance, does the tree falling in the forest make a sound? Mixed metaphor intended for comedic effect.
Question mark?
Yeah, question mark.
Yeah, that one fell flat, I think. So then we go to the next page.
Know clear that I am still very much ready and willing to negotiate with Federico. At this point, I must see a good faith gesture. I have been left for the first waltz and have not heard any tree fall.
It seems to be a follow-up on that joke.
I guess so, it's
Okay.
our,
And so,
I-
before that, he's indicating, I am much ready and willing to negotiate with Federico. And then he goes on into the next paragraph, starting I am. What is that?
I am very flexible and I'm willing to meet at almost any time and place with Federico and or his attorney that is wished as I place this process as a high priority on my long list of things to do. Time is of the essence. However, if a date is set timely, I can work with reasonable settings. I will need a response within 1 week. If the firm has any say-so in this process of settlement, due to any pre-existing employment agreements and any controlling clauses therein, I would hope that Federico is encouraged to do a quote, sit down, end quote, with Kim by the firm if that is within their authority to so encourage under any employment agreement or clause therein, either express or implied. Please look at the attachments and know that this is serious. I really want to be forward-looking in that I want to deter wrongful behavior in the future by Federico to the benefit of all. Dated this 16th day of May, 2019. Signature line for Kim Blandino, pro se, his address, telephone number, and the Earthlink email address, along with the certificate of service that he does with apparently all of his documents.
It says, certificate of service, Kim Blandino, pro se, hereby certifies that service of the foregoing letter with complaint and attachments was personally emailed to.
That's the board of directors, my bosses. That's Jim Olson, Walter Cannon, John Gormley, and I'm guessing the secretary. Peter Angulo, Mike Sabursky, and then myself. And the email addresses are all law office addresses underneath the names.
And then again, indicating that it was done on the 16th of May, 2019 by Kim Blandino.
That's correct.
Okay. And further, the letters that he attached are included thereafter, is that right?
Yeah, the ones that I believe read before.
Yep, so we have the one that was sent to you on May 9th, 2019, but dated at the top, May 8th, 2019, is that right?
Yes, sir.
With the exhibits that he had attached to that letter, is that right?
I believe it was all the same ones, yes. And that federal case against somebody else.
Right. And then the document where he makes his original formal request of you that he entitled settlement agreement and release, that was attached as well, is that right?
Yes.
And the exhibits that he had sent to you later on,
That's correct.
which included the letter he dropped off at your firm on April 25th, 2019?
Yes,
And the exhibits to that letter,
yeah, those strange exhibit numbers, yes,
which included that customer feedback form we've gone through.
yes.
And the Veterans in Politics letter,
Yes, all that, yes.
and the letters from the Commission on Judicial Discipline,
Yes. Those other judges, yes.
and the next exhibit, which was the first note that you wrote at your office on April 8th, 2019.
Yeah, that was the first surprise visit.
So, in the letter to your board of directors at the law firm that you work for, in your private capacity as a lawyer, he sent all of the communications that he had had with you up until that point in time.
Correct.
This board of directors, Jim Olson, Walt Cannon, John Gormley, Peter Angulo, Mike Staberski, can their decisions have an effect on your career and your livelihood?
Of course.
And in what capacity?
Well, I mean, they make the decisions with hiring, discipline, terminations. They're well-known, all of them very well-known in the legal community.
So,
It's a small,
potentially,
it's a small legal community too, so.
potentially it could lead to you losing your job.
Of course,
It could lead to you being humiliated.
of course. That already was humiliating, just having them see any of this stuff.
Do you notify the detectives that were involved in the investigation after receiving that?
You know, as soon as I received it, I can't tell you if I saw it right away or a couple minutes or whatever later, but I fired it off saying, here we go, and, you know, this is a real problem, we gotta do something.
Okay. Did the detectives indicate to you that it was time that you could now, if you wish, go file for a protection order against Mr. Blandino?
I think it was a few days later, I'm not sure, but it was in, I think, email format, where they said there was enough evidence, hey, go ahead and do what you need to do in the meantime, because you better, oh, you're bare, you know.
And they were still working on their investigation, but they wanted you to be protected?
Correct.
Okay.
They knew all along, I mean, I was jumping up and down, I gotta do something, I mean, all this investigation's great, but bottom line is, you know, I'm out in the open. Everybody else I know is out in the open, I'm hoping somebody can do something, but they have to do their investigation, and for me to do anything sooner could have interrupted that investigation, that's kind of the way it works.
Ultimately, all of this comes to an end in regards to the investigation, is that right?
Yes,
Criminal charges were filed against Mr. Blandino,
yes,
and that happened shortly after that letter was received by you and the board of directors at your law firm.
yes,
And that's what now has you up here on the stand testifying today.
that's correct.
Okay. State will pass the witness.